Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Good morning, Vietnam!
You are great.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious...
You're listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. Classic movies, 30 years in the making. Little dance party here.
I like dance parties.
It's really just you and me. Can there be a two-person dance party?
Maybe if we dim the lights.
Well, hey, it's... I don't have anything else going on for the next 45 minutes or so.
We gotta talk about a movie.
Lady in Red. Okay.
Is dancing with me.
I didn't tell you to stop.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Wait.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, okay.
90 degrees
All
on
right.
Friday.
It's,
okay.
It's getting hot in here. It's going to be hot and wet. That's nice of you with the lady, but ain't no good of you in the jungle.
Oh.
Thank you, Roosevelt. Okay, so we are not Adrian Cronauer.
Nope.
And this is not Vietnam.
Nope.
It's not morning either.
No.
So we are striking out on all counts. This is the 30-something movie podcast.
Hello.
In which we talk about movies that have reached 30 years old.
We like that.
We do like that.
We
We do. So this time around, we're going to be talking Alien Nation, which has nothing to do with aliens. Well, no, like the Aliens franchise, like the Xenomorph aliens.
Right.
Not those aliens.
Not those aliens.
Different aliens.
Different aliens.
Not those aliens. There's no face stuff.
Yeah.
That's not even the noise they make, but none of that.
You're correct.
Correct. So yes, so this time we are talking Alien Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very quickly, we spoil the events of the movies that we talk about, so if you have not seen Alien Nation and you want to, don't listen to us now.
Mm-hmm.
Come back and listen to us later.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was a Saturday Night Live thing. Wasn't that Hans and Franz? They were like, hear me now and believe me later.
That's right, they did say something like that, yes.
I started saying that and I was like, I feel like I'm talking like Hans and Franz. We're here to pump
you up.
So, yes, so we do spoil the events of the movies we talk about, so we will be talking about Alien Nation.
Yep.
Haven't seen it, watch it, come back, we'll be here.
Yeah.
We're always here. Sitting right inside your ear.
In the 30-something movie podcast zone.
Yep.
It's like the land of Dairy Queen.
A little bit like Danger Zone. Oh, see, I went Danger Zone, you went Dairy Queen.
Okay.
We'll start with D. Why Dairy Queen?
Well, the land of Dairy Queen. All the ice cream's just there waiting to be eaten. Us. We're here in I tried to take that
I'm just like intently looking at you, hoping that something that makes sense.
I was gonna try and bring it all back, but I couldn't, man. It was just getting more and more crazy.
In the back of my head, I'm sitting there going, all right, let's see where this goes. I mean, it's not to say I don't like Dairy Queen.
No, but do you remember the Land of Dairy Queen commercials?
No.
Well, see, there you go.
Okay, see,
there was
where I'm
always
missing
the
out.
Dairy Queen commercials.
Okay.
You'd go to they'd pan into the Land of Dairy Queen, and there would be, it was like Willy Wonka's chocolate
You'd open
factory.
up the freezer, and it would be the...
They had this little jingle in the Land of Dairy Queen. Or, no, that was a different tune. But anyways, there'd be this little jingle, and then there would be like...
Note to self, find audio for Land of Dairy Queen commercial.
Chocolate.
And put into show.
Everything is pure and enchanting, rich and thick, with all that's light, cool, and creamy.
Discover the one place where good taste comes through.
Discover the Dairy Queen Banana Split.
In the land of Dairy Queen, we treat you right.
It was sort of like, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka's factory, where you just walk in and all the food was right there, and it was chocolate rivers.
But this is all ice cream.
But it was all ice cream,
Okay.
and then they talk about whatever the latest flavor was or whatever. But it was the Land of Dairy Queen, and they'd have a little like spot where you'd see the Land of Dairy Queen, and if they were selling chocolate, you'd see mountains of chocolate and flowing rivers of chocolate. Then it would rain strawberries and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I was talking about when I said we're kind of like
that makes a little bit more sense. I just thought you were just sitting over here just like making stuff up.
I kind of wish I would,
what
man.
What the heck are you talking about?
It kind of would fit, man. I wish.
Hey, that's fine.
I wish it. I wish we could have.
I appreciate your imagination. Mm-hmm.
Just end the movie for me and I'll be okay. Don't leave it hanging.
So we.
All of our listeners like, dude, I wish I could have got that 5 minutes back.
Yeah.
Mizuka's listening to this and he's just like, what the? Yeah.
So this time we're talking Alien Nation. I already said that people. Well, that's what got us into this whole thing was telling people to go back and watch it and then come back and listen to us later to our world, to the world of
the danger zone.
The danger zone.
Danger zone. End of story.
Fighter pilots flying through Dairy Queen Land. Mm-hmm. Sure, I'll take that. But yes, and then leave us a review on iTunes. If you like what you're hearing on the show, leave us a review. Let us know what you're liking. If you don't like what you're hearing on the show, do you need to leave a review if you don't like?
You can.
I mean, you can.
Laugh at you.
We don't. Right. I mean, we may. I don't know. We're not going to pick on people, are we?
We're not going to pick
that seems mean-spirited.
No, we're not going to pick on people.
No. We're just publicly humiliate them.
I think you can call it that.
I feel like that's reasonable. Well, I mean, I feel like if you put yourself out there in public, that like we do, we might make fun of you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Things
That's fine.
happen.
That's fine.
Things happen.
But that shouldn't stop you from leaving a review. In fact, maybe that should cause you to leave a review so you get mentioned on the podcast, you get some notoriety, and eventually you become famous.
Yeah. All of those things could go
Never go in against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
That's right.
It's right there. It's right there on the board. Inconceivable.
Good role on Mozart in the Jungle, too.
Yes.
He was good at
Did
that.
you finish watching it?
I've got like a couple of episodes left to watch.
Okay.
Because I got distracted with Cobra Kai.
Okay.
I got distracted.
I thought you were going to say I got distracted with
I got distracted with Monica Bellucci, too. But I mean, that was...
Yeah.
Oh, she makes my little heart go pat. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just going to,
I figured I'd ask you and be like, somehow I got stuck in the middle of season 3.
Yeah.
I can't get out. I can't get out. I'm stuck. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was good.
But anyway, he was good. I love the piano player. We have not watched the final season yet. We were taking a break.
I'm in the final season.
Okay.
You know,
we were trying to take a break, space it out a little bit.
Yeah.
So then we went to we have to space out. I think we've probably talked about this before and probably on the show before. Deadwood. You ever watch Deadwood?
No, but you said that it gets a little...
The language is so intense.
Yeah.
That, like, you get done with a season and you're almost exhausted.
Yeah.
To the point... Well, and anytime, like, the kids come out from their rooms at night when we're trying
Pause.
to watch TV, it's, pause.
Yeah.
But we put closed captioning on.
Yeah.
So we're like, nope, don't pause on that part. Nope.
Yeah.
There's no good part to pause.
Nice.
So...
Well,
so we kind of took a break. We took a break from Deadwood. We watched a few other shows. We started with the first 3 seasons of Mozart in the Jungle, which is easy because they're all little half-hour deals, kind of like Ash versus Evil Dead.
Yep.
And then we got to the point where we're like, okay, we really like this show. We don't want it to end right now. Let's go back and finish the last season of Deadwood, and then we'll come back to Mozart in the Jungle and.
I've got a few episodes left of Mozart in the Jungle, but I've got Tammy hooked.
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai is done. Loved it, and I played the first episode for
still
Tammy.
Watched it,
And between Cobra Kai, Mozart in the Jungle, and Stranger Things, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm in the middle of 3 shows and they're all awesome." You know, I'm just like, "Hey, well." So, but I should wrap those just with enough time for Arrow and Flash to be on streaming, so I can check those shows out.
Arrow we gave up on a few years ago, but Flash I'm waiting.
Yeah.
We started this season and then just completely lost track of it, and by the time we were 7 episodes behind, we just said, we'll wait till it goes to Netflix or
Which one?
Flash.
Flash, yeah.
The other one that Sharon started watching on Netflix, and then I started, she finished it, and then I just started watching it the other day, is called The Rain, and it's a Danish show. So it's got subtitles, but you can put it in. You can change it to English if you want to.
And this is a what now?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's a series on Netflix. I think it's 8 episodes. And the idea is...
you told me of this, I believe.
I think I might have told you about it.
The rain is poisonous?
The rain has a virus in it.
Okay.
And it kills people.
Okay.
Like, almost immediately. And this little boy somehow is totally immune to it. Like, he has the cure within him. And so I've only watched the first episode at this point, but supposedly it's going to get even freakier than it is now. So if you don't like freaky stuff, maybe don't watch it. And I know you're not a big fan of freaky stuff. So the problem was when I started watching it, Sharon had already watched through the entire thing. So when I went to go, I was working out the other day, and I went to go put it on, and I just hit play on Netflix, not realizing that it was going to play the episode Sharon had left off from, which was the last episode of the season.
Okay.
And so it starts playing, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, I feel a little lost, but then I'm sure they're going to do a bunch of stuff in flashbacks, and I'll figure out who these people are.
And no, you were just on the 10th episode.
And then Sharon gets home, and so I pause it for a second and just find out how her day was, and I said, yeah, I started watching that Rain show you told me about. She's like, yeah, where are you at? I'm like, well, they just got to this bunker, and she's like, they don't... The stuff you just described. I said, yeah, they're doing the experiments on the kid. And she's like, they didn't do any experiments in the first episodes. What episode are you on? And then I looked at it and I was like, season 1, episode 8. Oh, never mind. She's like, yeah, no. Forget everything you just watched. Like, go back, start over, and forget everything you just watched. So
bring it back.
I'm sure it's going to be a really great show. I maybe kind of know what happens to some characters, but
that's
but that's all right.
Some could happen.
We're just going to treat the entire thing like a flashback.
Yep.
Much in the same way that you should treat the prequel trilogy of Star Wars. Just treat it like a flashback, and then all the stuff you hate, it was just a dream. Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. Should we talk some Alienation?
Yeah.
I don't know that we have any new movie. Well, we're recording some of these ahead of time, so new movie news doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
The only new movie news.
How did you like Solo?
Awesome! I can't wait to see how awesome that movie was when I watched it.
When you watched it before, and the thing with the guy and the there you go.
That's all I got to say to that.
Didn't we do that? Didn't we try to, when we recorded our Force Awakens episode, didn't I try to get everybody to make their own Chewbacca noise? And Dennis refused.
Oh.
I feel like we did this at one point. Huh. I feel like everybody just looked at me and they were like, no.
I thought Dennis recorded the whole thing using only a Chewbacca voice. I'll have to go back and re-listen.
Might have been. You go back and listen. Okay. So let's just dive on into Alien Nation.
Yeah.
For this one, Alien Nation came out on the 7th of October, 1988. Actually, I'll jump in here for a second. It was actually supposed to come out before that, but they did some edits to the movie to make it shorter and faster paced. And ultimately, that ended up causing a shift in composers for the music as well.
Okay.
So Jerry Goldsmith was actually supposed to do the original score.
But it was...
and it was...
I think it's Jay Chataway.
Kurt Sobel.
Oh.
Jay Chataway was Maniac Cop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's where I saw that name.
Kurt Sobel, who was in the music department for Ray, The Revenant, Monster Squad. He worked as a music editor and supervisor in a whole bunch of different 80s, 90s other movies. So he was the replacement conductor or composer for the soundtrack. It's supposed to be Jerry Goldsmith. I was listening to the soundtrack the other day. They have it all up, the rejected soundtrack, they call it. They have it up on YouTube, and... it was kind of cool. I mean, it had kind of a fun sound to it. It sounds like a bunch of other 80s sci-fi movie soundtracks. And I'm blanking out on whether he did some of those or not, but it sounds like it could be the soundtrack to The Running Man or Total Recall or maybe even Predator. It sounds it has that kind of almost synthesizer sound to it, electronic, and
kind of a repetitive melody.
And they took that away they took away and rejected his score because they said it sounded too weird. But also because the pacing, the timing of everything didn't fit when they cut the movie in certain parts. They're just it's a little weird, a little weirder than what we wanted, and the movie has been re-edited, so your music doesn't work anyway. Rated R, runtime of 1 hour 31 minutes, directed by Graham Baker, who did Impulse and Beowulf. Producers were Gail Ann Hurd, who has done, pretty much everything since the 80s. Terminator, Aliens, The Abyss, The Walking Dead, you pretty much name it. If it's something related to something like monsters and robots and aliens, she's probably produced the thing. Richard Kobritz also did this. He also produced Christine and the TV movie Salem's Lot. Writer for this one was Rockne S. O'Bannon, who did the TV series Farscape, Defiance, and Revolution. Cinematography, Adam Greenberg, who did the first 2 Terminator movies, Ghost and Near Dark. Music, as I said before, is done by Kurt Sobel, who was in the music department for Ray, The Revenant, Monster Squad, a bunch of other things. Could not find a budget for this one, but the box office was only $32.2 million, so not a whole lot of... Didn't do very well. I did okay, but, probably not what they were hoping for. Starring James Caan, who played Matthew Sykes. He was in The Godfather, Misery, and The Program, which, have you ever seen The Program? I don't think a lot of people have seen the program.
Is it about football?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a college football movie. We, in high school, on the football team, we were obsessed with this movie. Like, we would put it, we had a big screen TV in our locker room, and we put it on in the locker room. And then if you would go over to, like, a friend's house, if it was a friend that played on the football team, like, what do you guys want to do? I don't know, eat some Chex Mix and watch a movie. What movie you want to watch? The program! And, like, you might go over to another friend's house the next day. You're like, what do you guys want to do? Oh, eat some popcorn, watch a movie. What do you want to watch? The program! The football team was obsessed
And we
with
haven't
this
seen
movie.
that as part of this podcast.
No, because it comes later. I think it's mid-90s.
I wonder if I've seen it.
94?
I've heard of
maybe?
it. I've heard
James
of it.
Caan plays the coach.
Yeah,
the head
okay.
coach of the team. And
All right.
there's a couple other actors in it that you'd recognize from other places, too. But Mandy Patinkin played Sam, or George, Francisco. He was in The Princess Bride and Homeland. Terrence Stamp played William Harcourt. He was in Superman 2 and The Limey. Kevin Major Howard played Rudyard Kipling. He was in Full Metal Jacket and Sudden Impact. Leslie Bevis played Cassandra. She was in Spaceballs and Star Trek DS9. Peter Jason played Fedorchuk. He was in They Live and Prince of Darkness. Jeff Kober played Joss Strader. He was in Sully and Sons of Anarchy. Conrad Dunn played Quint. He was in Stripes and Chicago. And Roger Aaron Brown played Bill Tuggle, and he was in Near Dark and Cobra. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes give this one a 54%. Roger Ebert says, quote, "The movie is simply a failure of imagination. Nobody looked at the screenplay and observed that it didn't try hard enough, that it had no surprises, that it didn't attempt to delight its audiences with twists and turns on the phoned-in plotline." Ouch.
Ouch.
But, you know, when I read that, and I do like this movie, I'll say that before we even get talking.
Yep.
I do like this movie, but I read that and I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Audience rating for this one, Cinema Score got a B, so that's people actually seeing it in the theater, and then as they leave, they are polled, like exit polling for the movie theater. They gave it a B out of an A+ to F scale.
Mm-hmm.
Rotten Tomatoes audience gives it a 45%.
Okay.
It did win the Saturn Award for Best Sci-Fi Film. It was nominated for the Saturn Awards for Best Supporting Actor, Mandy Patinkin, and Best Makeup. The only summary I'm going to give for this one, and then we'll just talk about it as we go along, is what it says on the posters. Los Angeles, 1991. They have come to Earth to live among us. They've learned the language, taken jobs, and tried to fit in, but there's something about them we don't know. Alien Nation, prepare yourself.
The Newcomers have arrived. They have their own customs, their own mysteries,
Slagtown, I hate this place.
and their own crimes.
My fellow newcomers will work very hard to make as much money as they can to give to me.
Sykes, here's your new partner.
My true name is Stangya Sorensa. Sorensa, well, gesundheit.
Now, James Caan.
So what do you got?
This'll stop anything. And Mandy Patinkin are headed deep into newcomer territory.
Get the slogan. Well, your mother mates out of season.
Into the heart of a mystery. Inside an alien world of violence. Desire.
Tell me the truth. Have you ever made it with one of us?
And power.
A sweet indulgence from our past, resurrected for our future.
It is called Shabrukam. Your people do not know about this part of our past.
Beyond their darkest fears.
He's dead. No, he's not.
Lies an evil beyond imagination. Alien Nation.
Okay, so Sam Francisco. I love the names in this one. Played by Mandy Patinkin, was originally going to be named George Jetson, but the Hanna-Barbera company, who did the Jetsons cartoon, I guess it was like 3 days before they were set to start filming, said, no, you're not allowed to use that name. No, can't do it.
Good.
Right. And so actually I did find a kind of a, well, at least a quote by, as he was being interviewed later, from Mandy Patinkin, the character who played Sam Francisco, and he said, look, that's ridiculous. He said, whenever I watch the movie, I think of that character as being named George Jetson. He said, in my trailer, when I had makeup and I had props and I had other stuff and I had costumes and everywhere in the script, it says George Jetson. Everything I had to get ready for this part was labeled Jetson. When I thought about it and created my character, I named him Jetson. So I don't care what anybody says. I don't care about effing Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
When you watch this movie, that character's name is George Jetson. Which then is when they're riding in the car and James Caan, he's like, yeah, my name is Sam Francisco. And he's like, Sam Francisco? I'm not introducing you to people as Sam Francisco. I'm going to call you George.
Okay.
So that was their way of kind of getting back at Hanna-Barbera. Be like,
Okay.
you know, we're still going to use the name George. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
So that was kind of their little dig
Funny.
at them. We already talked a little bit about Jeff. I was going to say Jeff Goldblum. Jerry Goldsmith. Two very different people.
Yes.
Jeff Goldblum, Jerry
Both
Goldsmith.
people.
But I mean, both people, yes. We got the human part down.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, very different people.
Yeah.
I would assume. I mean, I'm not friends with either one of them. But not that I wouldn't be. I'd be happy to be.
Both
But I'm
nice
not.
guys.
They seem... You seem a decent fellow.
Mm.
I hate to kill you.
I am a decent fellow. I hate to die.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was inconceivable that we wouldn't try to put Princess Bride jokes
Oh.
into this since Mandy Patinkin.
I didn't even know it was Mandy Patinkin.
Yeah.
When I watched the
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
I didn't watch the credits. I didn't watch anything.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, when did... Oh, that was him in makeup. Wow, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. After William Harcourt has his transformation at the end of the movie, he is no longer played by Terrence Stamp because Terrence Stamp refused to wear the crazy monster alien makeup at the end of the movie. And then your favorite topic.
Yes.
So hold on to your chair.
Here we go.
A remake has been.
Well, I don't mind remakes.
Yeah. You just don't like remakes of Maniac Cop.
Yeah.
Okay. A remake has been in the works for the last couple of years, and the last news was that Jeff Nichols, who has done the movies Shotgun Stories and Mud, one of the ones that won some awards a couple of years ago, would be writing and directing it. So, I mean, I want to say nearly every one of his movies has been hailed as being well-done movies. Like, he always gets, in the different scoring systems, whether it's Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic or some of those, his movies tend to get like 90%.
Cool.
So...
And they're thinking
he's a good writer, he's a good director, and he wants to be the writer and director for a new Alien Nation movie. So I'm cool with that. So let's just start off with, have you seen this movie before? No. What'd you think?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I found myself liking it. I remember when the show came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I watched a couple episodes of the show. I don't know how they interrelate. I don't know at all. I'd be interested to go back and check out the show. I always remember that there was a movie that people talked about first, and I think I remember people saying the movie was a little edgier and a little bit more violent. The show was more made for prime time, and you know, whenever it came out, junior high kids could watch it and all that. But yeah, this is the first time I saw the movie, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I'd seen the movie a few years ago. I didn't see it anywhere near to the time that it came out, but I've seen the movie before, so this is probably maybe the second or third time I've seen this. But I did watch the show when the show came out, because I think around that time, it was around the time that there were a whole bunch of shows on kind of related to 80s movies that they had spun off into TV shows, and a whole bunch of them, like, there is no reason in the world why I ever as a child should have been watching these shows. But I remember watching, there was a War of the Worlds show that I think
remember that one.
Came out in either 80, maybe 89,
Okay.
88, might have been 88, might have been 88 that it came out. This one came out 89. Alien Nation came out 89. I think War of the Worlds might have been 88.
Okay.
But I remember watching War of the Worlds, the TV show. I remember watching Alien Nation, the TV show. There was a Nightmare on Elm Street TV show that I never should have watched.
Okay.
Because it kept me up at night, and I had horrible nightmares from watching it, but I was a dumb child. And just a whole bunch of different TV shows that were based off of or spun out of 80s movies. And this was one of them. And I remember really enjoying this show. Even though I'm sure the content, at the time I would have been, 8 years old, 9 years old. I'm not their demographic at all.
Right.
But I remember really liking the show.
Okay.
And I remember just thinking that it was really cool that you had and it was just normal. It was just these aliens are living on Earth. Nobody's looking at them going, wow, that's an alien.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
They live here too.
Yeah.
And that even as a kid, I remember thinking, that's pretty cool. That's not, we're not making a big deal out of them being aliens. That maybe it's part of the story here and there, but
yeah,
it's how it is. And so, sticking with the TV show for just a second, I think if I remember, because it's been a long time since I've seen the TV show, if I remember right, the TV show didn't do quite as much. This is the kind of like buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
And not in like a comedic way, but like buddy cop movie where it's, you know, the crime is the main thing and they're trying to solve the crime and all that. I feel like, from what I remember of the TV show, it was more about fleshing out the alien culture.
Okay.
Like you got to see more of their, if they have a religion or if they, you know, more about their language and their customs and their, so I feel like the TV show was more about, you got to see more of like their home and family life.
Yeah.
And how it differed from human family life.
Right.
And because you get little bits and pieces of that in this movie where you see things like, you know, oh, it's disgusting that their alcohol is sour milk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's gross. Or they eat raw food, or, you know, all this other stuff that is different. You get little bits and pieces of that, but the show kind of fleshed that out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I almost think about it in the same way that you had Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation, where, you know, Star Trek, go back to the original Star Trek, and that's the action. There was always either action or a mystery or something that had to be figured out, but you didn't really spend, at least in the old original Star Trek, you didn't spend a whole lot of time learning about the cultures of the different people or the culture of the Federation.
Right.
Or what, and then you get to like The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, and it's almost like all culture. It's all about learning the ways of these different groups of people.
Right.
And so I think that was the main difference between the TV series and the movie was just a straight up cop, you know, action, investigation story, whereas that other the TV series was more here are these newcomers as people and as family and here's the dynamic of how that works for them versus how that works for us.
Right.
So, yeah, I like this movie. I think we kind of hinted at it a little bit at the beginning that, you know, it's not going to, other than the Saturn Award, it's not going to win any awards necessarily, but I always just like the idea of the movie.
Yeah.
The idea that it's not a big deal that these aliens are here. And now watching it, I'm gonna bring back the social commentary piece of this again, because that's our favorite thing to talk and argue about.
Mm-hmm.
But watching it as an adult now, being able to see more of the parallels to like the immigrant story. You know, you have these people that have come here as immigrants, and in a lot of ways they are definitely treated as immigrants, whether good or bad. They are treated in much the same way we treat immigrants in our own country and world.
Right.
And that, to me, that was kind of interesting to see that aspect a little bit more clearly now that I'm watching this as an older person. I think the last time I probably watched this was maybe high school.
Okay.
So it's been a long time. But yeah, it's just kind of cool to see that dynamic too of, and not thinking about it that way before, of how the aliens are being treated and how before we started recording, you talked about District 9 and how that was kind of a cool movie that features the idea of aliens as immigrants and how to, that they're here and they didn't really intend to be here necessarily. They are refugees, or they're from somewhere else, and they either ran out of gas on Earth or whatever it was, and now they're here and they can't get back.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and I had forgotten that too about this movie, was that and I like how they do it at the beginning of the movie, that you just see the grainy picture of the UFO, and the idea being that somehow this is a slave ship, and this slave ship went off course and
ended up here.
Now here they are, and now they're free. They don't have to be slaves anymore. Which the one thing that made me think of while watching this movie was like, well, who are the masters? Mm-hmm. Like, if this is a slave ship, does that mean that there's some race of aliens that's out there that's like really horrible and can contain these people and cause them to work for them and to have them as slaves? And not that this movie needs to answer that question, but that's not fleshed out. And it doesn't need to be fleshed out. And it might have been fleshed out in the TV series, but it's been so long since I've seen it, I don't remember.
I can't remember the TV series,
But I like the premise of this movie. I like the idea of this movie that you take something simple like a cop story, and you're gonna throw it's almost the same thing as it's actually really, really similar to Red Heat. You know, you're taking, and that's kind of the whole buddy cop idea, is you take two people from very different worlds, and in this case it's literally from two different worlds.
That one had an action bent, this one has a sci-fi bent.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
You know.
You know, and so and the way they did it, and they weaved in some humor there, you know, by having the fact that they get drunk off sour milk, or what were some of the other things? Like the salt water is poison to them. It's like acid to them, that they can breathe gases that would be dangerous to us, so that they work certain jobs. Some of the other stuff too, related to the idea of it being a story about immigrants and how immigrants are treated, is these newcomers have shown up, and you have the guy at the beginning that's like, well, they're taking all of our jobs because they're smarter than we are. You know, my kid's like got a 6-year-old. My kid's a 6-year-old. Or no. There's a 6-year-old in my college class, and blah 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 blah. And they learn faster than we do, and that's not fair. And so I mean, you get some of the same rhetoric you have nowadays of, well, these people showed up and they're taking our jobs, and and just how they kind of weaved that into the story. And
I thought that
was done well.
I thought I did. I got really nothing to take away from that. I mean, it was just a fun story, and it was cool how they made you look at that in a different, from a different perspective. I think it's funny, much like Red Heat, the main guy that we could relate to, maybe, the police officer is kind of like a burnout, on the wild edge, maybe not burnout, but just the kind of doesn't mind playing outside the rules. He's not afraid to smart off to someone. A little bit more cowboy, just like in Red Heat.
Right.
And whereas then the alien is the one that's more buttoned down, more precise, more proper. The kind of that just is very disarming to the to the James Caan character. When he's just hurling these insults, and he's like, okay, well, do you not like donuts? Do you not like that? Oh, okay. Well, is it, just very calm and precise. Just like the Arnold Schwarzenegger character in Red Heat. He's the one that's like incredibly physically trained, and he's the one that has all the answers. And I just find that interesting that we, in the 80s, what we liked, what we envisioned as the leading man, and was the one that was coming in a little bit sideways with things, was the one that was a little bit wild, was the one, that's what we look up to, the sidekick is always the one that's the more precise, and
yeah, there were just the only criticisms I have of the movie are where things maybe just didn't get used in the way I would have hoped they would have gotten used. And when I read what Roger Ebert said, I was like, you know what? No, Robert, you're totally wrong. And then I started reading it, and I was like, you know what, Robert? I take some of that back.
Yeah.
You might be right. Yeah. I get what I see where you're going here with this. Right. And I don't know that, I don't want to go so far as to call it a failure of imagination. I think that's somebody writing a newspaper article that needs people to read his article, so he's going to, make his language a little bit more provocative than it might otherwise be. But I do think that the part where he says that I don't know that I completely 100% agree with how he says this and what he's saying, but that it had no surprises, that it didn't attempt to delight its audiences with twists and turns on the phoned-in plotline. I will say this movie didn't have any surprises. Like, nothing about this movie surprised me.
Right.
And there were several times watching this movie that I felt like, all right, you've got two completely different cultures, a little bit like something like Red Heat, where you've got, or think of more recently like Rush Hour. Right. You've got people coming from different countries, so you've got the cultural aspect, the language aspect, that kind of stuff. I don't think that was used as well as it could have been. I think that you could have added just a few more scenes to the movie and maybe have seen more of Sam or George's home life with his newcomer family. I think maybe seeing a little bit more of that. You weren't going to see any of, what was his, Sykes, what was his first name? Matt Sykes. You weren't going to see his family stuff because he didn't have anything to do with his family. His daughter was the one getting married, and he wasn't.
Right.
He was kind of separating himself from his family, but I feel like you could have gotten just little extra hints brought in some more sci-fi stuff, because otherwise there's not a whole lot of sci-fi in this movie.
No.
Other than just the fact that, you know, a portion of the cast are supposed to be aliens.
Yeah.
There's nothing really sci-fi about it.
No, I agree. And that was what I was going to say, too, is if you wanted to, you could add more movie.
Right.
You know, you could put some more movie in there
Mm-hmm.
to try and answer some of those questions. But you know, it wasn't a bad movie by any means.
No. But like I was saying, you know, nothing surprised me in particular. You know, nothing was, when he says that it didn't attempt to delight its audiences with twists and turns. And I think that when you do a sci-fi movie, you kind of need to have some of that. You do kind of need to have, if it's meant to be something that's more fantastical than what we have on Earth, then you should have, you know, I know this is in the grim and gritty streets of Los Angeles, but you should have some aspect to this.
I wasn't,
The one in particular that I was thinking of, too, is the idea that they have two hearts. Mm-hmm. I think they said they have two hearts. And when they said he was trying to shoot the one guy, he's like, well, you know, if you just shoot him in the one heart, you just make him angry and they keep coming at you. And that idea never got played out. I think in the one scene he had to shoot one of the aliens several times.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking, you know what, that part is kind of interesting. And how would a cop who's trained on how to make a kill shot or how to shoot someone to wound versus take them down or whatever, to then throw in that element of, well, but now you have these beings who maybe are a little bit tougher than humans and they're tougher to take down and that kind of stuff. You get a little bit of that with when he tries to knee him in the groin,
mm-hmm.
and it doesn't work. So you get some of that.
Yeah.
But maybe there could have been a little bit more, or have it be used in a more significant way.
Yeah, I don't know what, like the try to knee him in the groin and it didn't work. I mean, that's been used in other movies before.
Right.
He hits him in
It's a bit of it was a Star Trek 6.
6,
yeah.
exactly. Or you hit him in one spot.
I think we all have them in the same place.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you get those things. But yeah, I don't know exactly what else they would put in,
mm-hmm.
because you run the risk of putting some in, and suddenly it's like, wait, what direction are
mm-hmm.
we going here? This is too scattered. This is too,
Right.
Maybe this is just what the movie was intended to be, just
mm-hmm.
a cop story, and you kind of throw in that added dimension of, aliens are walking among us.
Right.
I don't know that there was anything that needed to be explained more. It would have been nice, but it wasn't like, wait, let's go connect the dots.
Well, and if you want that, then I think you go watch the TV show.
Yeah,
because that's what the TV show did.
Yeah, and maybe that's the best thing that can be said about this is that it was a good movie and
mm-hmm.
you didn't get spread too thin, and then they made a TV show out of it so
mm-hmm.
that you could, in a different format, explore these different issues. Each week.
Well, and they really did. They tried to flesh out the characters and the culture and the other stuff a little bit more, because even after the TV show, for about, I want to say 4 years, they had a comic book
mm-hmm.
that kind of explored some more of the aliens and their culture and all that, and then a series of paperback books too that brought that story out and developed it more and did more of that. And I think that just goes to, especially if they were cutting this movie down to be even shorter than it originally was in the first place.
Yeah.
I think that just goes to, there's only so much you can do in a movie.
Yeah.
Otherwise, go to a TV show.
Yeah.
Which is why I think more of the stuff lately that we really have gotten invested in have been TV series.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the way Netflix does the series now, I mean, it's really almost like you're just watching a 14-hour movie.
Right.
But that 14-hour movie, you can break it up and you can watch it in pieces.
Right.
And you're getting way more character development in that amount of time than you are in a hour-and-a-half movie.
Right. Well, it's binge-worthy shows.
Right.
When you watch an old school show and you binge on it, you either got to geek out on it
mm-hmm.
and really okay, I'm checking this out, or you're just like, okay, here they go again.
Yeah.
15 minutes left to go. They're going to do this. 10 minutes left to go. Now the way they're doing shows, it's designed to be binged. And I think maybe one of the first shows that was really written that way, and from my perspective, was the show 24.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much that they envisioned that we were going to be watching them all on Netflix
mm-hmm.
back to back.
Right.
But the idea that it had a 24-part season that all followed the same overarching plot lines.
Right.
As opposed to, throw up another example, Star Trek, The Next
mm-hmm.
Generation.
Right.
Now, there might be some common
in the
threads.
later seasons, there were more common threads.
There
but
were.
in the first, It's like a lot of different shows, like Smallville, or the X-Files, or there was they always called them like the Freak of the Week, thing. There was kind of in the background, there was this overarching story of Mulder's trying to find his sister, or Clark Kent's trying to learn how to deal with his powers.
Well, it might pop up for one or two,
right?
Then it might come back,
right?
And then the
but
season
until you got to like 24 or the first one that we ever remember where Netflix dropped the entire season all at once was House of Cards.
Okay.
And I remember that popping up the first time, and we were interested in watching it because we liked Kevin Spacey as an actor, and I remember we went on to Netflix, and I said, Sharon, they did all the episodes at once. Like the entire season is in here already, and she's like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got to start watching, and that was the first time I remember, binging a show that way, other than like Battlestar Galactica, which we would rent the DVDs and binge them that way. But yeah.
But even like Battlestar Galactica or West Wing,
yeah,
it was an episodic show. Yeah, they were trying to escape from the Cylons, and that was the big theme that lasted for the 4 seasons. And there might be within that one season, that I can't remember, the ship crashed, so there might be 4 or 5 episodes where they're dealing with
trying to elect a new president.
I was just going to say there was those little threads, but I mean, now you have shows that come out that, just like you said, I mean, it's like, this is the theme that we're taking through to the end.
Right.
And we're going to explore it. And so you get more in-depth movies, and the production values are every bit is up there.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I'm amazed with how short movies really truly are.
Oh, yeah.
Because I, growing up, was more of a movie guy than a show guy.
Oh, totally, yeah.
But you watch a movie, like these movies, and I'd be thinking like, okay, here we go. Got to, getting fired up for this movie, getting wrapped up in this movie, and then it's just like, oh, it's
over.
It's going pretty quick. Oh, and sometimes it's because I'm watching it while I'm doing something else. And then I realized, the something else really takes as long as watching them.
Yeah. I wonder if, and they talk about cutting this movie down from its original length to get it to an hour and a half. I wonder if now audiences are more willing to go see a longer movie, because it seems like some of the Star Wars movies and Infinity War is almost 3 hours long. I wonder if now people have gotten so used to binge watching stuff that they don't have a problem sitting for a longer period of time.
It's cyclical, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, movies of the 80s were an hour and a half. Then somehow we crept up to the, 2-hour mark in the 90s.
Like Braveheart, and some of those are like 3
then
and a half, or whatever
epics,
they were. Yeah.
And then you have the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And then what are we buying? The extended cuts.
Right.
And and then I think movies maybe start... Did they ever creep back, or is it...
Yeah,
they crept back from 3.5
yeah.
hours to 2.
Right.
I mean, maybe Transformers 2 was the downfall of that. Like, dude, I'm watching this for...
So, yeah. So, I mean, in general, I like the movie. There are a couple places here and there where I kind of wish more had been done with it in a sci-fi way. Actually, when Harcourt turns into the creature at the end because he's overdosed on the drug.
It's like Turtles 2.
Right.
The secret we use.
Go ninja, go ninja, go ninja, go ninja, go. I used to have that cassette and play it all over the place, and
I know.
I might actually still have it. I gotta go find it now. Okay. Anyway, where was I? Harcourt.
Yes.
Yeah. So when Harcourt transforms, I would have liked to have. Maybe that's another place they could have brought in a little bit more sci-fi. Is I would have liked to have a little bit more of an explanation as to why did he change. Like, is that because if these newcomers have been bred to be slaves, is that what they would naturally be if they just evolved to what they were supposed to? Or is that a mutation? Or is that... I think of when I would read the comics or watch the cartoons or whatever, with the superheroes, and there's the Martian Manhunter character that is part of the Justice League. That in his natural form, he looks a little bit more monsterish as a Martian, but when he comes to Earth, he shapeshifts, so he looks a little bit more humanoid.
Yeah.
And I thought that could have been an interesting turn too, to say, well, wait a minute, could this happen? Because that was kind of their concern, was we can't let humans see this, because if they see this, they'll be totally terrified of us.
Yeah.
And we can't have that happen. So I almost wanted a little bit more, and maybe a sci-fi genetics explanation that says, well, this is what we actually are.
Yeah.
If you let us evolve naturally, or something, I don't know what. But
yeah, and it's funny because I come at it from like the surprises thing is like I knew he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Everybody knew he was the bad guy.
Everybody knew he was the bad guy.
And
it's the same with a whole bunch of other cop shows or other. You know who the bad guy is from the beginning. It's like the Beverly Hills Cop, or it's like Total Recall, or that you pretty much know who the villains are.
Right, and that's where I think they could have said, well, maybe they could have written it a little bit less of a cardboard cutout. Mm-hmm. You know what's going to happen. Maybe the fights. Okay, they're on the boat. Guess who's getting pushed in the water?
Well, right. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like maybe give us a little bit more of an epic battle. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not making movies. No one's asking me to make movies. I don't want to be telling them what to do. Right. But that's where I think it could have been expanded, or they could have switched the plot a little bit more. Think of the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
We know who the bad guy was.
Right.
We know who the good guy was. Mm-hmm. Could you predict that the way that movie was going to go?
Yeah.
No. Did you really?
Yeah.
You knew which way, but I would guess I was setting it up differently. When give the appropriate amount of spoilers.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
But then, like Dark Knight, when it was just like, oh, that's how they're going to end it. Like I wasn't like predicting that.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of what I was saying. Like, I mean, we knew who the bad guy was, we knew who the good guy was, but I didn't predict that. Wow, they're on the boat. How is he? The two boats.
Right.
Again, spoilers.
Right.
How is he going to save this? Oh, I didn't know that it was going to be the people like doing that.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like that movie had twists and turns. That wasn't just Joker, Batman, pow, bang, but. This movie just kind of had that. Okay, he's going to push him in the water. Yeah. Okay, his buddy's going to come down and scream while he pulls him out. His hand's going to... They could have worked within it without it being like... And now for something completely different, plot twist, they could have worked within what they had and maybe just change it up a little bit. Yeah. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah. And there's another, just as kind of a last thing to throw out here. I haven't seen it, so I can't talk about it, but Netflix, I think at the end of last year, put out a movie called Bright.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I started watching it.
Okay.
And then everyone said how bad it was, and I was like, oh, maybe.
See, I was gonna watch it, and then I heard the same thing. It's like, it's not good. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna watch it at some point, and I just haven't had the time to.
I thought of that. Movie.
But that, it seems like. It seems like it's pretty much the exact same story. I mean, I don't know the rest of the story. I don't know how it plays out.
It seems
like it's almost the exact same thing as all these other buddy cop movies that have people from two different worlds, like a Rush Hour, a Red Heat, an Alien Nation, or whatever. That it's he's supposed to be an orc.
Yeah, it's like fantasy creatures.
Instead of sci-fi, it's fantasy. And,
right.
And Will Smith is the James Caan of the movie, and kind of he seems like the maybe a little bit jaded, disgruntled cop who now has to work with this new partner, and there's language barriers and there's cultural barriers and all kinds of other stuff that. Yeah.
And cycling back to our conversation from last week that we just had, that's kind of where that movie as social commentary fell short for me, because it's like, okay, this movie, it's got some of that in there. You can see it, and it's like, oh, okay, that. This stuff goes on in real life, even though they're showing us with fantasy creatures.
Yeah.
But I don't know that this movie really drew any conclusions or tried to move the needle one way or the other. It just tried to paint a real life issue with a fantasy brush.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, like last week's topic that involved race relations and police, that piece, I don't know that just painting it lightly with a fantasy brush is going to help move the needle on a topic like that.
Right.
Whereas something like this, they're not really trying to move the needle one way or the other. They're just showing it to you and saying, this stuff goes on in real life, folks. This just isn't fantasy.
Yeah.
It's just that we're making it aliens or orcs or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bright I might finish watching it.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my list of probably summertime stuff when there's less going on. And yeah. All right. So, in conclusion, we'd recommend this movie. Okay. If you haven't seen it yet, if you like sci-fi, if you like cop movies, if you like sci-fi, it's a good one to go watch. It's like we said, it's not it's not going to win like Best Picture or anything like that, but it's a good movie. Yeah. We had fun watching it. You and I both had fun watching it, and I don't think it's anything too heavy. It does. You can tell it's trying to bring in a little bit of, the playing up the story of these people being immigrants, but putting that in the frame of it's sci-fi and they are actual aliens from another planet, much like a District 9 or one of those kind of movies. So if you haven't seen Alienation, obviously we just spoiled the whole thing for you, but it's worth watching. So and it's one of those that we watch some of these movies, like we've watched, so far this month we've done Red Heat, we've done Colors, we've done Maniac Cop, and now we've done Alienation. And I think of all those different movies, Alienation would probably be the one that I'd go back and rewatch at some point. I don't know if I would, if I'm going to watch an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, it's probably not going to be Red Heat. I didn't mind Red Heat. It was a fine movie, but there's other options. Like, I'll go watch something else as opposed to that. Colors, Colors might be one of those that I've watched and I'm like, nope, I got it. I'm good. I understand the message. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I get it. I don't know if I'm going to rewatch it ever again, though. But Alienation seems like it's one of those movies that I might, like every 5 years, every 10 years or something, I'd be like, oh, hey, Alienation. I like that movie. And then just throw it on.
Entertainment versus social commentary. And when you mix those things, it's kind of hard to do.
Right. Well,
what I was just going to say, not that it's impossible, not that you can't do it, but if you're watching a movie that's social commentary, you're not going to check it out with the idea of being entertained, right? You're going to watch it with the idea of it's being social commentary and, let me make that aware of these things and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're turning a topic that we do, you're trying to make entertainment about a topic that does require commentary, and that's just sick. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas these other movies that you referenced, they're entertaining. So rewatching them, okay, like you said, I got the message. Now I just want to be entertained.
Right.
Right? I've already got the message from that movie. So if I need more of that message, I'll watch a documentary, read a book, turn on the news.
And really, if you're going to this movie for a social commentary, don't. Because there's a layer of it there, but if that's what you're looking for, this is not the movie for that.
Right.
I would say if that's what you're looking for, if you want a mixture of sci-fi and heavier social commentary, go watch District 9.
Yeah.
I think that's an outstanding movie. Have you seen District 9?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that movie. I would say if that's what you're looking for, go for it. Go watch that one. If you're looking for an 80s cop movie that just happens to feature aliens, then we go watch this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
Agreed.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for Alienation. So if you want to listen to any of our other back episodes that we've got, any of the other 187 episodes that we've done up to this point, we're getting really close to 200.
Getting close.
Jeff and I were talking about what to do. So if anybody out there has suggestions,
what did you guys come up
feel
with?
free. Well, one of my original ideas was to do something like a Through the Decades and do movies, because we do 30-year-old movies, but there are plenty of other good movies that are like 10, 20, 40, 50, 60, all that stuff. So that was one of my first thoughts, because when I look back at the list, I don't know if that's the one we're going to go with.
Okay.
But because Jeff had a really good idea too. So, but that was my first idea, because then I started looking at it and I was like, okay, well, Hidden Fortress turns 60 this year, the Kurosawa movie. We have 2001: A Space Odyssey turns 50 this year. We have Superman or Grease turn 40 this year. I think the other one that turns 50 this year is Planet of the Apes, the original. But I think later in the year, I'm going to do, or if you guys want to, you can too, I'm going to do just like an entire episode on that, because I love the Planet of the Apes movies.
Those new ones are amazing.
The new ones are really good. We watched all 3 of them like in a weekend a little while back.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of good movies from 98 and 2008 if we did like a 20th and a 10th, that kind of stuff. Jeff said maybe an episode on like what are our guilty pleasure movies. Like either movies that we like and we're maybe a little bit embarrassed to say that we like, or what's something that you at the drop of a hat you'd put on. Like I want to throw a movie on. What am I going to throw on?
I see.
So that was one of his ideas, was to
do something like that. No guilt?
What's that?
What happens
if you have no guilt at all?
Can I throw some movies out there and have people say, Pat, you should be guilty about watching them?
Just movies that pleasure you. No, wait.
Whoa! Whoa!
Just pleasure movies.
Okay.
They're not guilty. They're just pleasure movies. So we can have an entire episode on pleasure movies.
So would Iron Eagle have to be a guilty pleasure? Because I'm not guilty watching that, but I can see what other people say. Pat.
Well, we talked about what constitutes a guilty pleasure. Because that's what I told Jeff too. I'm like, I have no shame. I mean, I watch I'll watch anything. So, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. Okay, I'll just do this right now. I'm not as embarrassed to say I watched The Notebook with my wife, and she cried.
Okay.
I wasn't crying. She was crying. Somehow her tears got onto my eyes too. But
that happens.
Yeah, it sometimes happens. So.
I don't think I've seen The Notebook.
Yeah.
I don't do well with those movies.
Yeah.
Get angry.
Yeah. You get angry with...
I get angry with those
movies.
With
weepy movies?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I do. I get really angry. I watched the Joy Luck Club with my mom, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm the intended audience. But yeah, I just get angry.
I stopped watching movies with my mom after she took me to go see Ace Ventura 2. That was an awkward trip to the movie theater as whatever I was, 14-year-old.
Yeah. My parents watched Step Brothers with my sister.
When
my sister was like 20.
When you're sitting next to your mom and Ace Ventura is crawling out of a rhino's backside or whatever it was, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
There's certain things you don't want to sit and watch with your parents.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's not necessarily a guilty pleasure. Although...
So what was the definition?
I don't know. We have to argue.
Remember, last week you needed to get to Deadpool. So
I got to get to Deadpool. That was 2 weeks ago. And
I know.
Yeah.
We don't want to
2 weeks ago, I got to go see it now. And
we don't want time causality.
No, timey-wimey, whatever the...
Yeah. So what was the definition? How does it...
We didn't decide.
I get it.
I know, we got to decide.
I get it.
I think there are degrees of guilty pleasures.
You know what? It's a reworking of the top 10 list because here's your top 10.
Yeah.
But then there's the movies that like Shawshank you.
Yes.
And I think that, I could get in with that. Because what are the, at the drop of the hat, I'm watching this movie.
Yeah. So you call them your Shawshank movies. I call them my Kryptonite movies.
Okay. I borrowed the line from someone. I thought, I didn't invent that.
Oh, no, I borrowed mine too.
Okay, good.
It was somebody at one point, they're like, yeah, that's one of my Kryptonite movies. Yeah. And I'm like, well, first of all, I love Superman, so what are you talking about? And they were like, oh, well, back in the old days when you would change channels, it was like, yeah, if you're just changing the channels and all of a sudden you become powerless to change the channel because something you love comes on, that's when you put the remote down and you just start watching. So those are my Kryptonite channels, my Kryptonite movies, because I lose the ability to change the channel when that comes on.
So maybe a couple, 3, 5 movies that are those. Yeah, I get it. Or the power through the decades, whatever. Right.
You know? So we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's coming up for our 200th episode. That'll be up probably pretty soon. Just a few weeks away now. Then in June, we've got our comedy movies coming up. So if the Cops and Aliens month has been a little heavy for you, then you can come laugh with us in June as we are talking The Great Outdoors, Coming to America, Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and Beetlejuice. So that's what's coming up soon. We got to get out of here because I, 2 weeks ago, had to go see Deadpool. So I got to go. But thank you, Pat.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. This has been good. Check out I don't know where you can find. I don't think the Alien Nation TV show is streaming anywhere.
Probably catch
stuff
on
go
YouTube.
To the library or YouTube or somewhere like that. Yeah, or buy it. Only ran for one season, so if they have the DVD somewhere, it's just one season. Then it was done. Be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we will see you back here next time.